Welcome back to Unleashing the Rebel Within by myself, Lane Keller, published by Aurelian Press. Welcome to Phase 3, the Rebel Path. The last phase was about tearing down the illusion. This one is about rebuilding yourself after the veil drops. We're diving into discernment, energetic clarity, fear, manipulation, and what it actually means to stay conscious in a world designed to keep people distracted, reactive, and disconnected from themselves. This is where the rebel becomes something deeper, clear-eyed, grounded, and impossible to program. Chapter 15, Signal versus Static. In this chapter, we're talking about noise, media noise, emotional noise, cultural noise, and the constant flood of distraction competing for your attention. How do you hear your own inner signal in a world designed to drown it out?
Chapter 15, Signal versus Static. You've made it this far for a reason. You've cut through the noise. You've questioned the scripts. You've felt the burn of truth as it stripped away illusion after illusion. In the midst of all this dismantling, a new challenge emerges, one quieter, subtler, but just as crucial. How do you know what to trust? Because once you step outside the matrix, the terrain doesn't instantly become clear. If anything, it gets foggier at first. Your mind starts racing to fill the gaps. Your heart starts pulling in directions that scare you. The static is everywhere, inside you, around you, online, in your relationships. Everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's got a download. Everyone's selling a path to truth. Which one is real? This is where the rebel must go inward, not to escape, but to calibrate. The next level of growth isn't just about breaking chains. It's about becoming the tuning fork for what is real. To do that, you need to discern between signal and static. You need to distinguish the sacred whisper of your inner knowing from the frantic chatter of fear, ego, and programming. To do that, you must learn how to balance the head and the heart, not as enemies, but as twin engines of truth. Let's get into it. Let's talk about intuition, logic, emotion, discernment. Let's decode the noise. Most of all, let's find the frequency that's yours to follow, because that frequency, that's where the real rebellion lives. When your gut beats Google. Knowing that you need discernment and actually feeling it are two different things. How do you tell the difference? Is it with the mind, the heart, a gut feeling you can't explain? For some, the journey starts with research, as we talked about before. For others, it begins with a strange discomfort, something that doesn't sit right, even when you can't explain why. A subtle dissonance, a tightening in the chest, a flicker of unease when a voice or message just doesn't land. Here's the thing. That feeling isn't just mood. It isn't judgment. It's teaching you to detect truth. Is the intellect the starting point? For some, yes. For others, it's the heart. Sometimes it's not a conscious process at all. Inner sense that something's off. A discomfort, a vibration that grates, a tension you can't quite name but feel in your gut. I used to think this feeling was me being impatient or judgmental. Certain people on social media would cause me to prickle emotionally. Their tone, their face, their vibe didn't land right. I couldn't listen. Their voices were too grating, too smug, too fast, too fake, too slow, too short. I'd scroll past, irritated, assuming it was me. Then the pattern emerged. Time and again, the very people I couldn't stomach turned out to be something other than what they appeared. For instance, posing as truth-tellers while subtly undermining the truth. Eventually, I realized my body knew before my brain did. My inner barometer had been quietly pinging. It was truth detection. See, it wasn't personal, it was vibrational. Their frequency didn't resonate, and my intuition screamed before I had words to back it up. Once I learned to trust that feeling, once I started listening instead of brushing it off, it became one of my most valuable tools. Their truth, if it even was truth, wasn't my truth. That distinction matters because discernment isn't just about information, it's about internal alignment. It's about resonance. The more I follow that inner compass, the more precise it becomes. It has evolved into a kind of internal radar. Now, my inner barometer is on at all times. Do I still research? Absolutely. Yet, the landscape has changed. The digital battlefield has shifted. I don't rely solely on external data. I rely on calibration. Many others are now doing the same. Intuition is spiking across the collective, accelerated in no small part by the phenomenon known as Q. Say what you will. Q awakened millions to the realization that we were being played, that narratives were being carefully constructed, that clues were being seeded, that we were being trained to stop trusting ourselves. The drops, short, cryptid, and often coded, weren't there to give answers. They were designed to prompt questions, to wake up the researchers. It wasn't about following blindly, it was about learning to dig, and millions did. Whether you were part of that movement or not, the Q phenomenon cracked open a level of discernment that changed the culture. Researchers became decentralized. Codebreakers emerged. Suddenly, trust your gut became more than a new age cliche and transformed into a survival skill. No matter where you stand on any polarizing figure, the message remains: you must learn to discern. Discernment is the rebel's compass. It's what keeps you from falling for the next shiny savior, the next psyop, the next seductive half-truth wrapped in comforting language. It's what separates your voice from the static. That inner alarm. Some people are born with a highly attuned, intuitive compass. They just know. They walk into a room and sense the energy currents. They hear a voice and instantly feel whether to lean in or run. They don't need proof. Their nervous systems tell them everything. Others, many of us, have to rebuild this compass over time. We've been trained out of it, schooled out of it, gaslit into doubting ourselves. We were taught that proof comes from external authority. Only experts can know what's real. That feeling something in your bones isn't good enough. Fortunately, your internal alarm system is real. Like any skill, it sharpens with practice. When you're first rebuilding your discernment, it can feel messy. One day you trust your gut, the next you second-guess it. You might wonder, am I being paranoid or perceptive? Is this judgment or intuition? That's where the both and approach comes in. You need both your head and your heart, your logic and your instincts. Think of it like triangulation. When multiple senses are telling you the same thing, when your mind, body, and spirit all say yes or no, that's when you know you're onto something. This doesn't mean your discernment will be perfect. You'll misread signals. You'll be fooled. You'll get swept up in false hope or righteous rage or clever distractions. Each time you come back to your center, you get stronger. That is why it's so dangerous to cling to beliefs as if they're sacred relics. Once your mind becomes rigid, once you've decided you already know, you stop learning. You stop sensing. You filter out reality in order to preserve your worldview. Unquestioned beliefs are mental prisons, for they keep your inner barometer stuck on low. Here's the rub. The more you cling to dogma, the easier it is to manipulate you. That's how cults work. That's how political parties work. That's how mainstream media works. They depend on your willingness to believe something without questioning the source. Truth doesn't need your loyalty. It doesn't demand obedience. It just asks to be felt. If you want to raise your inner barometer capacity, start with this radical act. Hold nothing sacred. Not your teachers, not your parents, not your traditions, not authors like me. That doesn't mean becoming cynical or cold-hearted. It means becoming precise, curious, and fiercely honest. It means staying in motion, always calibrating, always testing, always listening deeper. When your alarm goes off, don't silence it. Ask why. When something triggers you, don't dismiss it. Look underneath. When someone's words feel just a little off, Pay attention. Energy doesn't lie. Your freedom depends on doubt. Some people have a very developed sense of intuition and instantly come up with answers that prove correct. For those who are still sharpening their inner compass, this is something that bears repeating. You must keep your mind open to all interpretations and analyses, even the ones you've previously dismissed or the ones that make you uncomfortable. You're now probably thinking, how on earth do I do that? It starts by holding no belief sacred. Yes, I mean none. This is where most people freeze up. We're taught that some beliefs must never be questioned, that to examine or question certain ideas is dangerous or offensive. This is the very mechanism that keeps the matrix of illusion intact. Unquestioned belief systems don't just limit you, they imprison you. It's not about having no values. It's about having the courage to test every value you hold. Yes, I believe in certain things. I believe there is a universal creator. I call this force, neither male nor female, but possibly both, God or source. My concept is probably not everyone else's concept of God. Some call him creator. Some say the universe. Some say spirit or light or all that is. That's the point. You don't have to adopt anyone else's name, structure, or belief about the divine. You do have to stay open, however, open to interpretations, open to paradox, open to multiple lenses of understanding. Because here's the truth. Unless you do this, your inner barometer will be stuck on a low setting. You'll fall for old scripts dressed in new clothing. You'll miss the programming coded into helpful advice. You'll confuse dogma with wisdom and be blind to the sleight of hand that happens in both religion and science. Every single thing we've been taught is not necessarily correct. In fact, it most probably is incorrect. Let that settle in. That includes history, medicine, nutrition, education, politics, relationships, and even basic assumptions about your body, your mind, and your purpose on this planet. The answer is simple, but it's radical. Question everything. I know I've said this before. Other people have said it as well. Yes, it's in danger of becoming another cliche with people printing it on t-shirts and bumper stickers. But I mean it. Deeply, sincerely. Question everything. But also do not dismiss new or uncomfortable information out of hand. Not because it's trendy, but because it's the only way out of the web of lies we've been living in. This is not paranoia. It's discernment. It's reclaiming your right to think for yourself. No more grazing on lies. In the writing field, editors and teachers have a saying, don't hold any sacred cows. That means the brilliant passage you stayed up all night crafting, the one that flowed through you like celestial poetry, it may need to go. The sentence you thought was your magnum opus might be the very one that dulls the edge of your message. Letting go can feel brutal. The rebel truth, what doesn't serve the whole, must burn. If you want your work or your worldview to evolve into something sharper, truer, and more powerful, you must be willing to cut loose the pieces you're overly attached to. This takes courage. It also takes humility. The same principle applies not just to writing, but to your beliefs. Yes, I'm talking about your assumptions, your rules, your truths that no one's allowed to touch, the things you've inherited without ever examining, the things you defend out of loyalty, tradition, or fear. These are your sacred cows, and they're in the way. The path to clear thinking authenticity requires a kind of spiritual editing. You must be willing to slash and burn what no longer serves. This includes the beliefs you thought defined you and the identities you've clung to for safety, inclusion, or validation. This is not about becoming empty or unmoored. It's about cutting away the clutter so that the real you can emerge. How do you begin? You do this by subjecting every one of your cows to examination. This means you inspect everything you've arbitrarily accepted as fact. Everything your parents, teachers, religious leaders, scientists, or news anchors ever told you. Everything the culture praises or demonizes. Everything. Because here's the twist that unravels the whole damn knot. The fact is, there are no facts. Let that detonate gently in your mind. What we've been sold as fact is often opinion wrapped in authority. It's data cooked to serve a narrative. It's history written by the victors. It's tradition masquerading as truth. Talk about your mind twisters. If you want out of the maze, if you want your discernment to be razor sharp and your lie detector fully activated, you must start by slaying your own sacred cows. Because until you do, you're not really free. Limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs include things like, my religion is the only way to heaven. My government cares about the people. Or, we need banks because they have to hold our money. These are the kind of unconscious beliefs that sneak in early, dress up as truth, and burrow deep. They rarely feel like beliefs at all. They feel like common sense, like gravity, like the sky is blue. That's how thoroughly programmed we've been. Time for the flip. Belief is not truth. Limiting beliefs is not just a buzzword. It's a trapdoor in your consciousness that you've probably never opened. Let's try opening it now. How about reversing your thinking that money is necessary to, we don't need money? It sounds wild at first until you understand that fiat currency is a fiction, an agreement, a construct, that there are other ways of commerce. Barter, community exchange, decentralized systems, sound currencies, possibilities that don't depend on being chained to debt. Here's another belief reversal. Religions were created as systems of control. Instead of offering spiritual liberation, many became tools for obedience, guilt, and tribalism. Perhaps not all, but enough to warrant deep reflection. Still more. The trillions of dollars in debt is not a real thing. Fiat is based on nothing. They print money up. Yet we accept that debt, national, generational, as a binding force, as if it were moral and essential. What if it is neither? How about the limiting belief that we are anything less than source-connected sovereign beings? That one sits at the root of nearly all disempowerment. That we can't determine our own fates, that we need permission to thrive, that our value comes from outside approval or institutional validation. The truth is, we can determine what's right for us and our families. Our rights aren't granted by governments or enshrined in legalese. They are intrinsic to us. They are inalienable. They exist because we exist. They are part of human law, or God's law. Now let's go deeper. What about the belief, especially in the States, that we are a democracy? We are not. America is a constitutional republic. There's a big difference. A democracy cedes control to others through the vocal strength of the majority. A republic holds that voting power in the hands of the people. Each person, not just the loudest bloc. Or at least it did until the United States was unlawfully reformed as a corporate entity in 1871 by the banking cabal. That restructuring reclassified the republic into a business and you, yes, you, into a commodity, a debt instrument, a vessel for labor and tax extraction. Let's look at some more limiting beliefs. Jesus, or Yeshua, was born on December 25th. False. That was a convenient overlap with the Roman festival of Saturnalia. How about this one? Killing infidels will send you to heaven. That your appendix is unnecessary. That your uterus is expendable once you're done giving birth. That dementia is part of the life cycle. That sex and passion fade with age. None of it is inherently true. Illness is not a natural phase of aging. Sex doesn't die unless we let it. December 25th is a marker of religious assimilation, not a cosmic timestamp. Our organs are not random extras. Sacred union doesn't wither, it deepens. If any of this causes discomfort, good, That's the point. You're pressing against the edges of your programming. On the other side of those edges is something rare.
Thank you for listening to this excerpt.